y'all, and welcome back to my channel. Or if it's your first time here, welcome especially. I'm Sally, and I'm so glad you stopped by. Today I'm going to be sharing my current workout split and my top tips for how to build a consistent, biologically supportive, pro-metabolic weightlifting routine. Before we get into it though, I just want to say that spots are now open for nutritional therapy. They start at just $49. I want to make sure that there's an option available for everybody, regardless of where you are in life, regardless of what your goals are, that you can get support. So we have a good range of options starting at just $49. If you are interested in booking a free consultation call just to see if we might be a good fit, go ahead down to the link below. You can head over to my website, and yeah, I'm excited to talk to you guys. But okay, back to the topic in question, my current workout split. So a little bit of backstory. I have been weightlifting, at least in some capacity, for about the past 5 or 6 years, maybe even longer. But it's been on and off. It's the kind of thing where I would kind of show up to the gym without a plan. I was doing a lot of different things. I was teaching fitness throughout college, and so I would teach a fitness class and then go to try and fill in the gaps with a weightlifting session, or it would just be kind of haphazard. And it was enough that, I was in decent shape, but when you're doing it that way, it's hard to really see progress because you're not tracking where you're at and you're not really practicing progressive overload. So all of that goes to say, this is the workout split that has really been working for me for the past several months, really helped me to hit my stride. It is focused on strength and not doing more than is necessary. It is focused on the foundational movement patterns, which I talk about in a video I recorded a while back, so I'll link that below in case you're interested. But what we're gonna do is head to the gym, we're gonna go through it, and then on the other side, I'm gonna talk about my top tips for those of you who are looking to start out with a weightlifting routine. All of my workouts right now are really focused on strength, and the first day we do a back or a posterior chain workout, primarily back, but with these deadlifts you get some leg involvement as well. So I focus on really going super heavy. I do 5 sets of 3 with my deadlifts, and I have been consistently adding weight each week. I've been trying to go up by about 5 pounds each week. Now, I will say it's not totally consistent, so I encourage you to have a plan, but recognize that progress is not always linear. And make sure with deadlifts that you are practicing good form, that you've learned it ahead of time to protect your body. But after my deadlifts, which have the biggest central nervous system load, I move into pull-ups. And I was so worn out, I actually hit a massive PR that day. I pulled 200 pounds for the first time that I couldn't even do one pull-up on my own. So I used a band, and I did about 4 sets of 6 assisted pull-ups here. This is my vertical pulling movement for the day, which is a really important part of any back workout or pull workout. But if you can't do pull-ups or you don't have the means to do assisted pull-ups, highly recommend doing a lat pull down. And you'll see these workouts are super simple. We are really looking to do as much as we can with as little as possible, if that makes sense, to be as efficient as possible, get the most bang for our buck. So then I move into my horizontal pulling movement. It's just a bench supported row. This is the other way your back works pretty much. So using a heavy dumbbell, here I'm working at about 5 repetitions. I failed to count exactly how many I did there, but it's till failure on either side with a weight that has me maxing out around 5-ish repetitions. And I did 3 sets of that. So next day, and it is a push day or a chest and shoulders day, because as you'll see shortly, shoulders actually are responsible for some pulling. But anyways, primarily push muscle focused. So we're starting off with a chest press. This was a good week for me. I was on my game because I hit 2 really big PRs. After this, I ended up hitting 95 pounds for 3 repetitions, which was a really long-term goal. But you can totally do this with dumbbells as well. Watch me struggle, but there we go. That's really where the growth happens, is in that struggle, having to fight through it. It's great to have someone spot you. My husband usually does that, but he was holding the camera, but they can also kind of check your form. And then I move into my shoulder press. Both of these I did 5 sets. For my chest press, I was doing 3 repetitions, just like my deadlift. And now for my shoulder press, I'm working at about 4 repetitions. I think I managed to get 4 repetitions the first time. You can see it's a struggle. And then it dropped down to about 3 repetitions for the following 4 sets. sets. And then I just finish off with some lateral raises, and you'll see me doing some rear delt flies in a minute. Lateral raises are really great for the medial delt, so the middle part of your shoulder. And it's something actually that my PT had me working on when I was recovering with some stuff related to scar tissue in my trap in my shoulder. So anyways, did some lateral raises. These are at a higher rep range just because it's harder as you have to use lighter weights to increase in weight so you can increase in repetitions as opposed to in weight to find what we call that progressive overload where you're consistently challenging your muscles more. And then I have some rear delt flies. These have always been a struggle for me, and that's why I'm focusing on them. They are pulling muscles, the backs of your shoulders, but just some, we call these accessory movements. Okay, so next day is leg day, and y'all, I'm gonna be honest, I struggle with leg day. I know a lot of girls are all about that leg day, but it is not my thing. However, there are a few things I've found that really help me with it. So first of all, I like to warm up with hamstring curls. I actually learned this from Will Tennyson. If you know him, you know him. He's a very funny fitness YouTuber. But I like to warm up my hamstrings, and that helps my knees. So I did about 3 sets of 12 on the hamstring curl, and then I like to also warm up my medial glutes and my abductors. And so I'm on the abduction machine, same thing. It was about 3 sets of 12, give or take. And you'll see this is kind of the one day, just given where I'm at and the struggles that I have with leg day, where I am working at a higher rep range, more hypertrophy, you might say. I'm planning to focus on more strength here, but it's just, where I'm at right now. So moving into some squats, and I'm actually doing dumbbell squats right now, wide-legged sumo position. I struggle so much with barbell squats or with like a more traditionally stance squat. I sink really bad into one hip, and there's nothing I can do about it. So ultimately, I need to work with a physical therapist, but that's just part of the process, is being aware of how your body works and finding things that are gonna work for you, because not every body moves the same. So I did those squats, and then I moved right into some suitcase deadlifts, as you might call them. Unilateral work like this is actually really great for engaging your core, because you're having to stabilize to keep your shoulders square, for instance, and keep yourself balanced. So I did, again, about 12, I wanna say it was about 12, you can count, on either side. And this is fantastic through your hamstrings, but you can throw different things in here. You can do like a split stance deadlift. You could use a barbell. You could do a glute ham raise. There are many different options. Just don't be afraid to experiment and find the ways you like best to hit those foundational kind of movement patterns, which we'll talk a little bit more about at the end of the video. So now I am doing a leg press, and this is actually a unilateral leg press in that each leg is moving individually, but the challenge that Samuel set for us is trying to do both legs together, but separate. So the things move separately, but we're trying to keep our legs together, and that's really training our brains to use both legs equally when it comes to our squats or when it comes to any, lower body pressing movement of this nature. So going pretty light here, but this is such a struggle. It's like one of those really tedious things with my brain. But anyways, a leg press is a great way to just add more volume to your lower body work. So highly recommend. Okay, last day, calisthenics day. This looks a lot different from the others, but we want to keep it functional and focus on, what we can do with our own body weight. So I'm starting out with about 3 sets of pull-ups. Sometimes that ends up being more than that because Samuel does muscle-ups and I cannot do those. So I'll do like 6 sets of pull-ups, still at about 6 repetitions. And then we have handstand push-ups. Now, I cannot do handstand push-ups. Also, recognize you don't have to do this. This is just me and it's totally unnecessary, but I'm doing pike push-ups, working on just getting my head to the ground. And these are focusing on the shoulders, but without needing to use dumbbells. And we'll sometimes do this workout at a park or like a calisthenics park. It was really cold and rainy today, so we just did it at the gym. But it's a fun way, again, to focus on functionality and get outside. You can see Samuel doing it. He's killing it. This is ideally what I'll be able to do one day, but we're not quite there yet. Anyways, I think that is very impressive. And after the handstand push-ups, we moved into some push-ups. This is like such an exciting thing for me because I literally couldn't do push-ups for the longest time, was having an issue with my shoulder, which meant like my body just wouldn't move that way. And I went from not being able to do any to being able to do like 10 at one time. So I'm doing 3 sets, I believe, I usually work at about 8 repetitions with these push-ups. Again, this day is a little higher repetition because when you're using body weight, that's kind of how it goes. But works different muscles, so to say. And then we just finished up with some inverted rows using the rings here. You can use just like a bar if you're at a calisthenics park or something like that. Anything that you can grab onto and kind of hang upside down at that angle. All right, I hope that going through my workout split was helpful for you. So jumping right into my top tips. Number 1 is to start below your threshold. What I mean is if you know that you have 4 days you can commit to working out, start with 3 days. Build yourself a split just around 3 days. Maybe you're going off the model I set, but you're not doing the calisthenics day. You're doing upper, lower, and full, or you're doing chest and shoulders, and then you're doing back and biceps, and then you're doing a leg day. Whatever it may be, start below your threshold. And the reason for this is as you are first starting to develop a routine, you're going to be sore, your central nervous system is going to be overloaded, and you're going to need a decent amount of time to recover. So starting below your threshold allows you to account for that and kind of build it in to your schedule. Also, kind of tied to this, we don't want to say, oh, I'm going to weightlift 5 or 6 times a week, especially right off the bat, because that just really isn't necessary and it doesn't give your body adequate time to recover. Recovery is where the muscle growth and the strength really build. It is in that time that the progress is really happening, not while you're actually in the gym. So I just recommend making each workout as efficient as possible. And then again, starting below your threshold so you have that time to recover, so that you have that space built in, and also specifically so that you're not getting discouraged when something comes up and you're not able to go to the gym, so that you have flexibility to move things around as need be. And as you start to really develop a consistent schedule with this, then you can consider, where is my threshold now? Can I add in another day? And it can also be really helpful to have kind of a flex day that you can do if possible, but that you're not just dependent upon. So that all ties into really just like giving yourself grace throughout the process, building in margin, and all of that. Number 2 is going to be to prioritize recovery. Now, recovery isn't just laying around doing nothing, but it's things like walking, it's things like foam rolling, like stretching. Just keeping your body moving on your off days is still really important when it comes to your overall recovery, but then also finding something that you can do consistently to keep yourself rolled out, stretched out. Maybe it's something like sauna, maybe it's something like ice baths. It doesn't need to be extreme. I personally, like when I have the ability to do so, I love doing like a cold plunge or something like that. That's good for your nervous system as well, but it doesn't need to be that. Just consider that there are a lot of different ways to recover, make it fun, and tie it into your everyday. It's not just good for your actual weightlifting, but it's generally speaking very good for your nervous system or your lymphatic drainage, because things like stretching help get things moving around. Foam rolling certainly helps get that lymph moving, which is really necessary for detoxification. Yes, but prioritize recovery. Just find something that you like doing and add that into your routine. Tip number 3, and I hinted at this at the beginning, but it is to focus on the foundational movement patterns. Again, my video on these will be linked below. But it's easy to get really overwhelmed because there are a lot of different exercises that one could be doing, and it's hard to know, what's the most effective or what's necessary. A lot of it ultimately comes down to preference, but there are these certain patterns of movement that we should be consistently working through to protect our bodies and to achieve optimal results. So just focus on them. You can find different fun ways to engage, do what you want to do, but just focus on those patterns of movement and don't overcomplicate it. And then my last tip number 4, is going to be to give yourself permission to experiment with your schedule. Maybe it's just 1 week, maybe it's 2 weeks that you kind of set aside where you are going to try working out at different times a day. Always make sure that you're eating before you work out if you do it in the morning, even if it's just a little bit, but you might try waking up and going straight to the gym. You might try doing it at lunchtime. You might try doing it in the afternoon. I think it's worth experimenting with the time in which you are weightlifting to see what works best for you. And also recognize this might change from season to season. what we have recently been doing, and throughout that split, what we'd been doing is working out in the afternoons, and that was really working great. But recently, just after I finished filming that video, well, the split has stayed pretty much the same. As it's getting light a lot later and it's getting dark a lot earlier, we've shifted to working out in the mornings while it's still dark outside, but we're awake anyways, because we then prefer to be able to spend the hours where it is light outside. So anyways, just experiment with it and recognize that it might change. But that's all for today. If you have specific questions, leave them in the comments. I do my best to get to every single comment. Please don't forget to go and check out the starter guide. If you haven't checked that out, check out the nutritional therapy options. And I just want to give a huge thank you to everyone who has already purchased the starter guide, supported my channel in that way. Until next time, bye all.